Today we're going to run through how to create a logo with the assistance of AI using Kittl. Now Kittl makes this process a lot easier, but in order to make a good logo we need something that's going to be simple and iconic and that works with our industry, but we also need to make sure that this logo works as a single color graphic, as it needs to be used across a range of mediums when branding for our business. But finally, we need to be able to export a vector file so that it is infinitely scalable and can be used on any commercial printer or even a vinyl cutter or any tool so that we can make sure our logo looks crisp and clean wherever it goes. Now also, Kittl are sponsoring this video, so there's a link with a discount code in the description if you want to get started for yourself. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to generate some vector graphics to help us get started with our logo. And there's a few different ways within Kittl that we can start to generate vectors for our logo, and I'm going to go a bit more in depth into some tips soon. But essentially I come down here to Kittl AI. We've got a few different options here. I'm going to start with the image generator. And we have DALL-E 3 selected. We also have ideogram. And essentially we want to come down and choose from one of the vector styles that's going to match our logo. So if I go show all, we'll notice we've got a few different vector styles. And depending on what you're looking for, something like this could be handy or something simpler like this. But once again, you can also switch to ideogram. And they have their own vector styles as well. Some of these are probably a little bit more suitable for logos, such as this one here. So if I click on vector art, and I come up and type in a prompt. So let's say we want to create a logo for some kind of AI tech startup. We're going to call this King AI or something similar just for the sake of the video. So I type in something like a logo for a tech company which features a crown in a unique modern style. I'm going to keep all these settings at default, hit generate, and what we get is a unique logo that is vector. Now if you don't like this logo, you can hit generate again, and you must start to generate a few different options to choose from. Once again, we can also come back and adjust our prompt. So I can say something like a crown with some circuit board elements to sort of add the technology feel into it. Hit generate image. And now we get something a little bit different again, which is probably a little bit more towards the modern end of the spectrum. And one more time, I'll generate another. So now I essentially have 4 different logo options I can choose from. Now these are all vector images, which means I can change the color quite easily. So if I say I want to change the color of this emblem here, where it says illustration colors, I can click on the color and change it to something else. And I can also do things like edit this, separate it and add different colors to various different elements. I'm going to touch on that later in the video, because at the moment we're focusing on what we can generate with AI. I'm just going to get rid of this top right one and keep these 3 for now. Now another thing we can do is generate a bitmap file to convert into a vector file. This means we can actually generate with a little bit of color instead of adding it in later. Now picking up where we left off, if we just go back to Kittl AI, go back, and I can use ideogram, DALL-E 3, or even Flux, but probably between DALL-E 3 and ideogram are going to be the best. And instead of choosing a vector style, choosing a clip art style, or something that has flat, simple colors that we can use to convert to vector. So even the mascot style works. We have typography styles if we want to work on some kind of typography-based logo, or image styles up here. Now none of these are really grabbing me at the moment, so I'm going to switch over to DALL-E 3, come down, and again, we have clip art styles. So you can choose something simpler. We have pattern styles. So you'll find something that really matches up with what you're actually looking for. I do think mascot's probably going to be the closest one here, or kawaii icon, something that's simple. I'm going to choose mascot. I'm going to keep my prompt exactly the same, but this time I'm going to add a simple vector art style logo, because this will tell the AI that we want something that's going to be looking like a vector graphic, which means we'll be able to convert it pretty easily once it's made. So I come down and generate, and we have this. Now this is a little bit too colorful for a logo, but if you're someone who wants this kind of logo, then you still have that option. Most professional graphic designers will go for something simpler, but not everyone wants that. But something like this is still vector friendly. So what I can do now that I have this image here is I can come down to vectorize on the right over here, choose how many colors. I'm going to bring the colors up to max because we've got a few different colors in here, and I'm going to vectorize that image. And now we have a vector object that we can work with. If I zoom all the way in, you'll see it's nice and sharp, and we can scale it to any size pretty effectively. But it doesn't just stop here. We've been working purely on emblems. We still want to add our business name to the logo, but before I get into actually adding that to these, what I'm going to do is zoom out by holding a control, using my mouse wheel, I'm going to click on my artboard and hit the plus button to add another. But next we also have the design generator, where we can generate a full design including the text of our logo. So if I actually just come back to my image generator, copy this prompt, I'm going to head back, go to design generator. I can choose between different types of designs like a logo here. So it says here coffee shop. I can paste this in. I don't have to actually say logo this time, however. I can just simply remove this, and we only have a 50 character limit. So I'm going to remove a few things to shorten it down, but also add in a business name, a tech company, King IT, a crown, circuit board. Now I can also choose different styles. So if I wanted a particular color, I'm going to go with black for now. And I can choose different styles like grunge, modern, that sort of thing. So maybe I'll get rid of our circuit board and lean into the style over here. So we can choose Y2K, which is actually a little bit old-fashioned, but I'm going to go with modern, hit generate, and we've got a few different options here. Now, we've only got one with the crown, or we've got two with the crown. We've got this one here, which is innovate. So it's actually given our business a name. But I'm going to choose this one for now. And for some reason we have a crown over to the right here. I'm just going to hit delete to remove that. And then we can basically start editing and customizing this design. So simply clicking, removing elements you don't want, double clicking onto various areas of text, and you can go through and use the Kittl editor to customize this design. Now, before we go any further, I want to share a few prompting tips that can help you, especially when you're generating a graphic. I'm going to put some images on the screen I was able to generate using the vector generator, and these can work with the vector or the bitmap generator, possibly a little bit with the design generator. So these will help you sort of get more the style or look to the logo that you're trying to achieve. Now you can just simply roll the dice. I have here a logo for a tech company, King AI, and we get this kind of like king with like a robot looking sort of attached to it. So it's interpreted my prompt with a little bit more freedom and come up with this concept. But you can start to take a bit more control by adding things like a simple mascot logo and even say a robot wearing a crown. So describing the elements you'd like to see will help the AI to determine what it wants to put into the logo. And because I want it to look modern, I've chosen modern tech logo in this particular image. Well, I also have the same thing again, but I've switched the style down the bottom here to Emblem. So you can see how we get a bit of a different result by choosing the same prompt, but also experimenting with different styles. But you can also look up different types of logos out there. So I've put in here a simple pictorial mark logo of a crown, this time with circuit board elements, and I wanted it to be modern. So I got this here, which does have a lot of bits and pieces to it. Isn't super simple, but it is something you can definitely start to work with. So then I switched to a letter mark logo for a K and an A, and it's sort of focused mostly on the K on this one. And the style I used was line art, so we've got this nice sort of line art effect. But if I switch to something like vector art, I think it produces this symbol. This is a little bit more iconic and looks, it's simple, maybe a little too simple, but it's probably the best logo so far, I think, in regards to a simple sort of like branded logo. Now, if you're using the ideogram model, I chose line icon with this one and just a text logo with the quotation marks, King AI, and then I incorporate the futuristic crown emblem and it produces this, which I think is much closer. The text isn't good, but we can always change that. But by switching from futuristic to a vintage style logo from the 1920s or a simple logo for an old business, I've got something a little bit more vintage looking. We'd have to obviously change old business and maybe the date down the bottom, but this is a really strong start if you're looking for more of a vintage style logo. But also changing up the description to a casual and playful style, and then switching to line art and ideogram here, it's done a really good emblem. The text doesn't really suit, but the emblem itself, I think, is actually pretty solid. But you can also switch things up again by being a bit more descriptive. So you want to say things like bold, impactful logo, and I've got the text in there for King AI, and I've also got block letter, heavy presence. It's created this really solid, heavy looking logo. So I'm not a huge fan of this logo, but it's nailed the description pretty well. But also a minimalist logo is another thing you can use. But if you really want to get a little bit more control, add in a famous logo designer like Paul Rand. And I've done a search for famous logo designers and got a list of people. But you can also try someone like, say, HR Giga or an artist whose style you like. And I really like this logo in particular for the style it has. Probably not the best for branding, but it definitely stands out by being a little bit more unique. And that line style definitely works pretty well. But in order to get the final look that you're after, I'm going to show you how you can use Kittl's vector tools and text tool to edit what you've generated. And now you notice here I've generated a ton of different designs, and you've seen most of them, not all of them. But the one I really want to work with is this one here. I really like the casual style. I really don't like the text. But now I'm going to sort of jump in and show you how you can make some edits so that you can further customize this logo and take it to a more customized level and get what you want. So I'm not going to edit it here though. What I'm going to do is I'm going to head back out to Kittl, and I'm going to start a new project. I'm just going to stick with a square canvas, but I'm going to change the DPI to 300, click create. And now I have a nice new fresh artboard to start with, and I can import my logo to start working on it. But how do I actually import my logo? Because I want to keep the other files there so that I can access them and go through the different variations if I decide that this isn't turning out the way I want. So what I can do is come over left here to uploads, go to show all folders, and I have AI generated. I find the logo that I want to use from my generations, which is this one, click on it, and add it to my canvas. First of all, I can't edit this here in a white background, but I really like the way I presented it earlier. I want to click on this, and I'm going to make the illustration color white. But now I can't see it because it's white in a white background, and I would like to make it transparent also, but I click on the artboard itself, change the color from white to black, and now I have an object that is white and the artboard color is black. I don't have to draw a box or anything. I can just use this white object. Now, I actually might even lighten up that artboard a little bit so I can see black objects when they appear against it. So I'm going to come up and click on the artboard. And then I'm going to choose more of a charcoaly color. And now I'll just remove that text so we can replace it. I can simply double click, zoom in, and I can highlight these points. I can hold down shift and hit delete on my keyboard and slowly remove them. Or even drag a box, hit delete, and they're all gone. So now, if I zoom out, I have my crown here by itself, but I still want to customize the color a little bit and get something a little bit different. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this crown and I'm going to copy it. So I'm going to hit duplicate. And I'm going to change the color of this crown here under illustration colors to say red. And then I'm going to subtract the crown so we have red dots. So if I grab my pen tool here, and you'll notice this one is joined. If I zoom in, I'm going to try and draw a line through here. I'm going to zoom out by holding down Control, my mouse wheel, and I'm going to select the crown itself. And now I have an object. I can choose a color to make sure that it's solid. I then go to my mouse pointer, hold down Shift to select the red area here, and I can subtract. And now I've subtracted these dots. Now, sometimes you do get a little funny error like this. So what I'm actually going to do instead is just remove that, and I can go down to my shape tool instead, and I'm actually going to draw some solid circles because I think the solid circles might look a bit better. So I click on this to create a circle, make that red, and because I want the circles to be the same size, I'll duplicate, and now I have this crown with red dots. Keeping in mind at any point I can select these and make them white for our single color logo. But I'll come back to that. Now, again, I want to move these up and customize it a little bit, but it brings out our little dots in the background. So once again, I'm going to grab our pen tool and just try to create a selection around those old ellipses. Hit my little mouse pointer, and I'm going to move position, hold down Shift to select both objects, and this time I will subtract, and that looks a bit better. And then we just need to tidy these areas up here. So again, we double click. I can click on certain points and delete them or move them. I can then also grab these handles and just sort of smooth that out. I can double click to also smooth out. So this one's okay. This one here, I can double click, move it up, and then I can just simply remove, and then smooth out using these handles here. So now I've created this emblem here. Now the text that we had before was pretty ordinary. So I can come over here to my text tool. I'm just going to add in a headline, which is shown up down here, quite small. I'll change the color to white and enlarge. And this is where I type in King. Now this font is not exactly what I'm after. So I'm going to come over to the right here, and on a text style, I'm going to choose a different font. I think this fresh font looks pretty good. It has a bit of a casual but formal nature, which I think matches the crown. But the other thing I want to do is add AI next to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this circle and duplicate it. And I'm going to add it to the end like this and add a little AI in there. But this time when I add my headline, I'm going to just pop AI here and I'm going to make it white. And I'd almost be happy with that as it is. But I can still go to my text style and pick a font. I think that looks even better. So we've created a really basic logo with that casual feel. Now, this is a bit crammed together. So I'm going to highlight the crown, hold down Shift to deselect that. I'm going to hit Control G to group so I can resize. Some of this text might be a bit close together. And what I can do is click on the text, scroll down, and adjust the text spacing. So I can say 5, 50, space that out a little bit. And then I can move this crown here, select the whole thing, and we've got a nice square logo that we can work with from there. But now I'm going to walk through some of the options for exporting your logo. This can be just to export a single logo or even a complete logo package with different formats and variations that you could use for commercial printing or commercial use. So if you wanted to just stick with this, you could come up to share and download the project as a PNG or a PDF or SVG if you want to go with vector. But we also want to create some variations because at the moment we have a dark background. And I'm going to switch that background back to black. What happens if we want to use this on a white background? What happens if we have to fill a different shape? Different logo variations are going to be important. So what I'm going to do is hold Control, use my mouse wheel to zoom out, click on my artboard and duplicate it. And now you can see we've got things flipped. I can click on the king and I can click on the crown, although I'm going to ungroup the crown. Click on these two items here, and the selection colors down here I change to black. Then I click on the artboard itself, change that to white. And now I have a variation for a light colored background. I then repeat that same process for a red version until I like the way those colors have been rotated. So now we have 3 color variations. But we also need to create a single color file for those just in case times. So again, I'm going to come over here, duplicate this, and we just need to make these 3 dots here black, and this dot here black. But because I would like to see this cut out, just in case we're stamping onto something, I'm going to click on the AI, hold Shift and click on the circle, exclude intersection, and now we have a single object with the inside cut out. I can get rid of the text. So wherever I go, it's kind of transparent. But we now have a color variation for each square version of the logo. So with that in mind, what I'm going to do is highlight and select all 4 of these artboards. I'm going to duplicate them because we need to start creating other variations. So in these variations, I'm going to just simply highlight the text and remove it, leaving just the crown. I'm going to position the crown by using the up and down keys on my keyboard. And we've then created different variations for our emblem. And again, we do this for the text, so we have both elements available to whoever's using this logo. Okay, so now I have the full logo as a square, the crown, just the text. So now what I'm going to do is I'm only going to duplicate 1 because I'm going to create a new variation for a longer type of logo. So here, if I highlight artboard 1, duplicate that, you'll see it's over here. I'm going to make that a bit longer and a bit shorter. Because what I want to do now is select this and just kind of move it to the side and rearrange and organize it to fit that space. So now we have another variation of the logo. And there could be as many variations as you think you need, but for this particular tutorial, I think this will work quite well. And so now again, I duplicate that into the various different color variations as before. And now you can see we have our square logos, we have the crown on its own, and we have the text on its own, and we also have some rectangular style logos. Now again, I'm going to go up to share and download the project. Now, first of all, I'm going to download PDF with all artboards. I do not want to combine the artboards into one file. I'm going to remove the background and download. Now I'm going to call this one PDF Transparent because these PDFs are going to have no background color, just the actual logos themselves. I click Save. And now if I extract that to PDF Transparent, I can open it up and I have a PDF of each one. Now you should probably give your project a name because at the moment mine says Untitled Project. So you might want to call it King AI Logo or something like that. But essentially I can click on this and you'll notice that it's just some red dots on a white background. That's because we have white objects against a white background. But if I bring this PDF into Photoshop with a dark background, you'll notice that all the objects are there. It's just simply because we have white objects against a white background makes this image hard to see. But coming back to Kittl, if I want to go through this project properly, instead of typing Untitled Project, I'll type in King AI Logo, and I can click on each artboard then and double click on the name to rename it. So I can say Square on Black, and I'm going to continue that process along so that all the artboards are named and the project is named. This time, if I download in the exact same fashion, now when I extract those from the archive, it says King AI Logo, Square on Red, Square on Black, and it has named those all pretty easily. That's handy to know because it does automate the file naming a little bit. But I also recommend, if you're going to be exporting this, if you're doing this for a client, then I also recommend doing a version that doesn't remove the background. So we download. So now we actually have some files which include the colored background as well. But then also some PNGs with the background removed. And of course some JPEGs where we don't remove the background. So now we have a couple of different file formats such as PDFs, one transparent, one not. So we have transparent PNGs and non-transparent JPEGs. So now if I go into the JPEG folder, you can see all the logos here with the backgrounds included. I go into the PNG folder, everything is here with a transparent background. So when you're supplying that to clients, they can take that into their printer or designer and simply extract and use those logos as they need to. I have a couple of tips on add in the end here that may be able to help the process. The first one is to make use of Kittl's brand kits. Now to get started, all you need to do is head over to the left menu and click on brand kits. Add new brand kit and then give your brand kit a name. And from there, in the left panel, you should be able to add things such as colors, fonts, or even effects. Go through your actual logo designs, find the fonts you've used, find the colors you've used, and add those to your brand kit. And you can quite easily then refer to them on other designs. So if I open up this other template and start adjusting the text, notice how next to color and text style, we have these little 4 dots. If I click on those, I can access my brand kit fonts, colors, or any other styles and apply them to other items within my design. And I may need to adjust some things like text to get them to the right font size, but otherwise I can go through the entire rest of the document, pick piece by piece to select and change the colors and fonts, even dragging a PNG of my logo into the top left, to fully customize this design so that it actually matches the branding I created with the logo we went through earlier in this video. Another quick tip is to head to Kittl's templates area where you can find various different logo designs. And if you find something that's laid out the way you want or has a lot of the elements you're looking for, you can open that up and make some edits, even generating new emblems and graphics to replace and create something unique from those templates very, very quickly. I actually give you a pretty solid idea of how you can use Kittl's AI tools to help speed up the logo creation process. Now, whether you're a beginner or a professional, that can help you to generate something unique and then make edits to get that final polish, and then even export a complete logo package that you can use for a client or any commercial printing purposes. But also on top of that, if you want to learn a little bit more about how the vector editor works, I'm going to pop a card on the screen in a minute that you can check out, and it will run through that process in a lot more detail so that you can get even finer tunings and adjustments to your logo. So if you want to check out Kittl, there's a link in the description with a discount code. They are the sponsor of this video, and I want to thank them for sponsoring the video, but I also want to thank you for watching. That is the video for today, guys. I hope you found it useful. If you did, please consider giving it a like. Otherwise, I hope to see you again soon. Have a great day.